This is one of the most twisted and confusing cases I've come across. The story revolves around Ethan. What you're about to hear is a tape he recorded before his disappearance.
My name is Ethan. I'm 48 years old. It's been 3 years since my wife passed away. No one believes me, but I still see her every day. It started with nightmares, haunting visions of her trapped in darkness, confused, helpless, and alone. But soon, it wasn't just in my sleep. I began to feel her presence even when I was awake. Strange things started to occur in the house. Footsteps echoed through the hallways, unmistakably hers. Every night at exactly 3:45 a.m., I heard 3 knocks coming from the basement. They would stop as soon as I went to check. Furniture in the living room moved by itself when I wasn't around, and I would often catch fleeting glimpses of her just at the edge of my vision, as if she were still moving through the house. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, but she was everywhere. One time, while watching the game with my friends, I suddenly felt a faint, icy breath brush against the back of my neck and heard her whisper my name. I turned around, but no one was there. When I finally tried to move on with my life and went on my first date since her death, hoping to forget the past, even if just for one evening, she wouldn't let me. As I sat by the window in the restaurant, talking to my date, I noticed her standing outside on the sidewalk in the pouring rain. Her eyes locked on me through the glass. The anguish in her gaze was undeniable, sending chills down my spine. She just stood there, completely still, as if she were trying to pull me into her world. As the days passed and the nights grew colder and darker, it became harder to sleep. Sometimes I'd wake up feeling as if she were sitting on my chest, pressing a pillow over my face. Just as the terror reached its peak and I managed to wake up, she would vanish, leaving me drenched in sweat and gasping for breath. After these incidents, I couldn't tell what was a dream and what was real. Shortly after, I experienced the most horrifying night of my life. I woke up by the now familiar sound of knocks coming from the basement at exactly 3:49 a.m. I got out of my room, walked through the corridor, and went down the stairs into the basement. As I opened the door, there she was, standing. She was dressed in her nightgown, now soaked with blood. Her legs were twisted at unnatural angles, and her skin was a lifeless pale. Blood streamed from a deep wound on her head. She looked at me with a chilling grin that froze me in place. As I stood there, her feet lift up the ground and she started, drifting closer to me. I stood there in fear, unable to move, scream, or even blink. She stopped just feet from me, her eyes locked onto mine. Everything around me fell silent. Then she began to open her mouth, as if preparing to scream, but it kept stretching wider and wider, beyond what seemed possible. I wanted to look away, but my eyes wouldn't close. At this point, I realized that I had no control over my body. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my arm and spread to my chest. My heart raced, and I struggled to breathe. My vision blurred, and I was covered in a cold sweat. The pain was intense, like a heavy weight crushing my chest. I don't remember what happened after that, or how I ended up in the hospital, but I'm glad that I'm alive. Still, I know she's coming for me. My name is Ethan. I'm 48 years old, and this is my confession. On the night of April 23rd, 2021, I killed my wife. I smashed her head with a baseball bat and pushed her down the basement stairs of our home in Charlestown, Boston. The time of her death was 3:49 a.m., but it wasn't entirely my fault. She had a way of provoking me, saying things she knew would set me off. That night, she pushed me too far, and I snapped. I had no choice. I had to stop it, and I did. But now, she's back. If anything happens to me in the near future, I want my family to know it's because of her. I would never take my own life, no matter what.
After that, Ethan was never seen or heard from again. No one saw him leave the hospital, and even the CCTV footage showed no trace of him. With all the security in place, it would have been impossible for someone to escape without being seen. It was as if he vanished into thin air, leaving behind only this tape discovered by the police.